Hey everybody, this is Michael Bryson for This is Bodybuilding, and I'm here today with Steve Kingsnake Kuclo. How you doing, Steve?
Man, I'm great. I love that you say my name right. So many times it gets butchered by other people in the industry. So
Really?
doing great, doing great.
What do you get? It's the
Oh,
Kuclo.
they usually throw an extra L in there, like Kaluko, or they mix the
Oh,
L up. Kuclo, you get a lot. So
wow.
it's kind of, I mean, if you just look at it, it's pretty simple. Kuclo. So you did
Yeah,
a
it's
good
pretty easy.
job.
How you doing? You doing good?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Other than the rain in Dallas we've been having, it's kind of a little gloomy, but I'm all right with it
Yeah,
because I know in a few months it's going to be all hot and sun. So,
really.
we got a lot of exciting things coming up, with the Kuclo Classic coming up this coming weekend. And we got a few other shows we're putting on as well later in the year, but just a lot of good things moving forward, and especially working my way into contest prep. So excited to hit the stage again this year.
Yeah, the Kuclo Classic's really grown to be. It's one of the biggest shows in the NPC right now, isn't it?
Yeah. It
Yeah,
definitely is become a competitor favorite and also a fan favorite. We've kind of combined years of Amanda and I's experience in competing and going to different venues and shows, and just tried to put together a plus event for the athletes and really make it about them and try to do great awards, great trophies, and just those little extra things that kind of make you look back at a show and like, man, that was really enjoyable. And just so hopefully you get a chance to come out and check it out. But it's going to be
yeah. I'm hoping to be there. That'd be awesome, and I hope everyone in the Dallas-Fort Worth area comes out. Where is it located? What's the actual location?
it's going to be in Plano at the Hilton Granite Park, which is at 121 in Dallas Tollway. By the Shops of Legacy over there. So it's a super cool area. There's about 200 restaurants within about a square mile of it. And just a really cool, just area. So something to check out, make a Saturday of it, catch lunch, dinner, whatever with your friends or your spouse, and then come get motivated and support a local bodybuilding show.
Yeah, awesome. Was it last year you had Alyssa Kiesling as the guest poser?
I did. She reached out, and I was super excited because I thought she's a walking badass. And
Yeah,
it was last year we changed our format of the show, so I was a little bit stressed trying to manage how we're going to do this, and between having just a men's portion in the morning and the women's in the afternoon. I had to, usually it's like, okay, morning is a little bit stressful managing everything, and the night show just kind of runs and it's easy. I could guest pose and do that. But this year, last year, it was like, man, it's combining those shows, the prejudging and finals into one, and it's just a lot of moving pieces.
yeah.
So she reached out and was like, hey, I'd like to, if you want, I'll guest pose. I'll be getting into prep for New York Pro. And so I was absolutely, excited about her getting on there. She rocked the stage. People
She
loved
did.
it. And, I'm super proud of her and happy she pulled that victory off recently.
Yeah,
So
that was awesome. I'm actually going to be talking to her later today about that victory. So it's kind of cool that I have you on today and then her later on.
super cool.
Yeah. So for yourself for this season, what do you have planned? I'm pretty sure you're doing the Texas show, right?
The Texas Pro is the one that I go ahead and put my stamp on. That's going to be my show this year. My qualifier for the Olympia. I think obviously the Arnold was initially going to be my target. That got moved, and then there's still not official dates, and it's just I don't want to say that will be my show and that doesn't happen. I mean, that would be horrible.
Right.
So this popped up a few weeks ago. Freddie called me and said, hey, I'm thinking we're probably going to have an open men's at this new Texas Pro show we're doing. And I said, man, if there is men's bodybuilding, I said, you could count me in. So he reached out and he texted me one day and he goes, man, I just confirmed it. We're having it. And I said, well, put me on the competitor list because I'm in.
Awesome. That's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm definitely going to be at that show. Last year they didn't have the men's open. I still went to it, but this is going to be really special.
Yeah, it is, because it's been almost 10 years since there's been a men's bodybuilding show in Dallas, or you could probably say it's in Texas, because they used to be the Europa in 2012 was the last Europa they had men's bodybuilding, and that was the year I won it.
Yes.
And so it kind of it became a little bit like, man, we need that bodybuilding show here in Texas, because Texas is such a big market and a big bodybuilding community. I'm really happy that Freddie's doing this, and they're going to pull it off, and we're going to make sure we have one heck of a show for them, and we put on a show for the fans that come out and want to see the big boys rumble.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think it's Texas, like you said, Dallas is there's a lot of people, a lot of stars here, so I hope there's a good turnout. So
yeah, for sure.
The Arnold, if it happens, do you think it's going to be an Olympia qualifier, or is it going to be too late in the season?
I've heard toward the end of September is when they're looking at potentially having it. If that's the case, usually they have a deadline for Olympia cutoff. It's like a month or month and a half out. So I would say it's probably not going to be an O qualifier if it's that close. Could be a special, exception, being that it is the Arnold and it is a prestigious show. So I couldn't say for certainty, but if you go back and how they normally do things, no, I wouldn't say it's probably going to be a qualifier this year, but probably for the following year it will be.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame that gets so messed up. I hope it continues to happen, because it's such a tradition, the Arnold.
It is, and I think I understand being last year when the Arnold was literally right before the COVID shutdown, the Expo got canceled, and just things went crazy for them. And as things start returning to normal in society in America, I think we could see that more of it, especially in Texas. We were recently at a Rangers game and they had 100% capacity, no mask. People were having a blast.
But people are going to be dying left and right now, Steve.
But I think Ohio's a little different than Texas, but hopefully they catch on. And at that time, they start having more, people within a place, and they realize that it's going to be okay.
Yes. Oh, it's crazy. But anyway, who's your coach right now?
Gina Davis. Her and I have been working together for the last 3.5 years, 3 years. Really since I won the 2018 Indy Pro. Like, she took over my training, and when I was working with George Farah at the time, and then George was real sick and going through a lot of cancer treatments, stuff like that, and I just didn't feel right. I mean, George is an amazing person and so intelligent, but at the same time, like, man, I can't ask somebody that's going through chemo and hey, look at my pictures and give me feedback. So Gina knew what I was doing, training and nutritionally, and she matched the training to my nutrition really well. And then at the time, I just said, Gina, you know what? I talked to George and I let him know that. And I said, Gina, I want you to take it over completely, nutritionally, and have my training all kind of work together. She's done an amazing job. I think it's one of those things where out of the few pieces of equation when it comes to bodybuilding, the training was one that I felt like I had a little bit stalemated my, training style. And she definitely threw the wrench in there that helped gear it up to the next level.
Yeah, you've made, I think, incredible improvements to anything that was ever considered a sort of a weakness to your physique, your back, chest. All these things I feel have really improved while working with her.
Yeah, no, she's been great. She's, she cares a lot about her athletes. And then I feel that, when it comes to me as an athlete, and then I see, she's got a lot of passion for the sport and is very smart, pre-med. So, all those things really made me like want to work with her other than just some training stuff. And she's fairly close. She's in Oklahoma City. So it's, about a 3-hour drive from Dallas. And so she comes in, a few times during prep, I go see her. So I'm able to have some one-on-one or FaceTime with her where it's not just photos, and she can kind of, put her little magic touches on it and say, okay, let's do this, and let's add this, and let's tweak this. And I think that's important too when it comes to coaching. That FaceTime is good.
Yeah, you've had great success your whole career, even as in the amateurs too. But I think while with her, like 2019 was probably was a stellar year for you.
Yeah,
winning the Indy Pro second time, and then the Arnold Classic. You were 6th that year, I think. Am I right?
Correct. I
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like that year and the year before at the Arnold Classic, I had you doing much better than what you did. It was,
I did too, Michael.
yeah, I think.
But you roll with the punches, you just come back stronger. And that's kind of what I did going into 2020, improving from that 6th to 4th. Which even I think I remember you talking to me, had me even higher than that at the Arnold 2020.
Yeah.
So we just, we keep pushing, and I think this year is going to be a good year. I think the time that I've been able to kind of not be off stage and but just focus on getting my body healthy and get my mind. I think if you do a lot of shows, and I've been doing this sport for 17 years, it makes you can burn out, or your body gets a little tired, and mentally, because it's a very, very strong, there's a mental part of this sport that makes it really difficult at times. It's not as much like I could take the physical abuse of beating up my body and being tired and all that, but that mental voice that you hear, like, oh, you don't need to do this, and you're tired, you should take the day off, and that kind of like the good angel and the bad angel over here that are kind of just messing with you the whole time. That's, I've been able to kind of re-energize myself mentally, and I'm excited to make this year a big year.
Yeah, it's exciting. People, I think your physique, you're deceptively huge. Like, when you see pictures of you by yourself, because you're 6 foot tall, right, and your flow is really good. You're not a mass monster, so to speak, and that nothing's out of proportion, and you're not like right, this like obvious freak. But when you see your physique in person, it's a different story. Like, especially next to other people, you realize just how big you are. What are you usually on stage? Like 272?
This year, no, this year, or last few years, I've been between 280 and 285. Kind of brought some different looks, and Gina and I've tried some different things as far as fullness, but it's been in between that, and I've been able to kind of grow into each prep I've done, and it's been really, I've liked it that way. It's not like I go to 320 and come down and lose 40 pounds, and it's so the up and down. Right. It's I think a lot healthier, and I feel just a lot better doing it. So yeah.
It's at the Arnold, I actually had you beating Big Ramy, in my opinion. You were just more complete with better flow. With him as Mr. Olympia, does that give you an extra spark of competitiveness?
I think it does. I think it's a twofold on that. I think, yes, being close to Ramy, that gives that competitive spark, be like, I could stand next to him, but also it to me, it favors the little bit bigger guys. I think Ramy structurally and obviously just sheer mass is much larger than the other 4 or 5 on stage with him on that first call out. That gives me, I think, a chance to stand next to him and be like, okay, we can compare apples to apples here and see which one we like versus kind of apples and oranges, which, the guys that are sub maybe 5'7" and shorter, but they're still 240, they're monsters. But on stage, it's very different. Ramy and I can stand shoulder to shoulder, and it's going to be a battle of, I think, completeness, which would make it a very interesting show,
Yeah, I agree. He's got, your legs are great. They're huge legs. But they're complete legs. Your calves are just as big in proportion to your quads as anything. But he's got a little flow situation that's not really there. So I think if you nail your conditioning like spot on, you can take that guy out. Yeah,
no, I'm excited. I think this, like I said, this year I feel fairly fresh. My body feels good. Every year as I get older, I notice that muscle maturity comes along, which I never really understood until you start seeing it. I was competing at a very young age, and then made improvements as I went along. And now I just see things are a little bit grainier, a little bit kind of gnarlier, a little leaner, and more separation in spots. And I think obviously that comes with age and as the muscle matures. And so it's exciting to see. I think, Branch is kind of the epitome of what muscle maturity and graininess looks like just from years of grinding it. So I'm excited to, see what, as I get more into my prime of bodybuilding, what my body looks like.
Yeah, you've been competing, you said, for years. I think, what was 2004 your first year or competing, or when?
2004, yes, sir.
And you did the teen nationals or something.
Yeah,
Or you?
yeah.
Yeah.
I did a few local shows. I won all the teen classes, and then I did the open and placed top 3. And that kind of gave me like I think I have something here. Went to teen nationals, won the heavyweights, both in 04 and 05. And at that time, it kind of gave me that push to be like, hey, continue this on, see where this goes. I mean, obviously you're at 18 or 19, you're really not sure what you're doing in your career. I was going to school to be an engineer, and then I went to school to become a firefighter paramedic, got that degree and stuff like that. And then at the time it all just kind of worked together, because that career helped push me to be able to compete and have the time and resources to do that. And I think a lot of young guys mistakenly think, I just want to become a pro bodybuilder and then I'm going to, turn pro and get a contract for 7 figures. And that's not really the case.
Yeah.
As with a lot of things in sports and different things like media outlets, the top guys do very well, but the bottom guys just fight for crumbs. And as you climb that mountain, you start, eating a little better, but you have to support that along the way. For me, it was working as full-time as a firefighter paramedic for the first, for 10 years of my career. I turned pro at 25, working on the busiest ambulance in the city of Dallas, just getting pummeled on work outside of the gym, with firefighting and stuff. And it helped me get stronger mentally. Like I said, it helped me get into, pursue the career I wanted to pursue ultimately and become a full-time bodybuilder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It worked out well for you. 2010, you competed at I think it was the North Americans. I think it's North Americans or the Nationals.
Nationals.
When you placed 3rd in heavyweights for that.
Yep.
That show was when I would have had you turning pro. I would have had you winning that show.
You know what? I felt that as well.
And that's nothing against, who was the one who won that?
Bernicia.
Yes. Yeah.
Robert Bernicia. Yeah.
Yes. And Keith Williams was second in that.
Yeah. That was to me, like the golden era of national level bodybuilding, because it was covered at such a high level. Like it was covered more than the pro shows. It seemed like MD covered all the national shows because everybody wanted to know who's the next guy, who's the top. And because at that time, really only 1 or 2 guys turned pro every like for the USAs and the nationals. So there's only a couple shows that were
right.
They're going to graduate the next group of guys into the pro league. And I remember that year, and I was getting a lot of eyeballs on me because I was kind of working my way up, and like having it to where only a few guys turn pro every year, it kept the field very competitive. And for me, it led that 2010 or 2010 nationals. I remember Bernicia was kind of the guy they were talking about, and then me was in there. And then at the finals, when they started announcing, because nobody really knew, it was so close between us all. And when I got 3rd, like the crowd, like this was like, boo, and I was like, oh my gosh, like obviously I became kind of a fan favorite, but
yeah.
That drove me into the next year, 2011, to be like, what, I really wanted that Mr. USA title. And then when I won that, was definitely a highlight of my career, because that was kind of like the, you put Mr. USA in your chest, you're like, man, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's better than the Nationals in North America. It's a better title. But that was a real exciting time as a fan of bodybuilding, prior to the Instagram, social media era. And it was sort of like right before it all kind of took off with that. You still had to rely on MD and Flex magazine. And every month I got those, and it was an exciting time to watch what was coming up. And I had to judge things by weeks later, seeing pictures of things, but it was something exciting about that I don't think fans today who are coming up don't remember that and missed out on something, I think.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I mean, the only interaction we really had with fans were stuff we did, that was on MD or Flex or in the magazine or at expos, and that was it.
Right.
There was no Instagram like it is now, and you can go live and people could just follow you around every day and do stuff. And I think there's benefit to that, but also it creates a much bigger workload on guys like me that just like, man, I want to go in, do my thing. I want to work. I want to train and not worry about having to post and do all this. But I'm like, I know I need to do that because that's a big part of what we do now. So
it's difficult. I was just watching, and I'm not a big fan of Generation Iron stuff, really, to be honest. But just last night, I was watching a little bit of Generation Iron 2, I think it was. And it's the first time I've seen it. But it was interesting because it's all about like the social media guys coming up in the sport, but they're not competitors. And I think it's kind of hard. I think you kind of have to do one thing full out or the other, because I don't know, you can't be winning shows. And I don't know, it's a hard balance.
I agree with you. I think I'm going to work on finding a more of a full-time younger guy to kind of hang and do some more social media stuff with me. I think that is beneficial nowadays, and people, for the fans and that kind of that side of thing. And I agree with you. I think social media is very distracting at times, especially when, like you're in prep and your energy is starting to get limited and you're like, man, I only got so much energy to focus on things, and I'm going to do my training and what I have to do. But I know social media is a big aspect of that. And like you said, the Generation Iron 2 thing going on the social media side with the guys and how that is, I call them like Instagram bodybuilders. They don't really compete. They don't add a lot of value to the sport per se. They add value to, like, creating popularity on fitness stuff online. But, I think the guys that do compete and grind it out and help grow the sport, and kind of the freaks that everybody likes to see. I mean, that's to me, that's the group that I'm a part of. So I'm a little bit partial to those guys.
Yeah. And it's been interesting too, when sometimes those guys who are the Instagram bodybuilders, every now and then, some of them have stepped on stage just to try it out. And rarely have they done very well. So it's one thing to look a certain way on Instagram and you can look like you're Mr. Olympia. But when
it's amazing what Photoshop and filters can do to somebody. I mean,
exactly.
At 12 weeks out, I mean, I can look like I'm a week out with the right filters and Photoshop. So that's a note for everybody. Don't believe everything you see online with a lot of these guys.
Going back to 2011, that was a real exciting time, that USA and just that whole amateur season. Guys like yourself, that show was a big battle between you and Juan Morel. In the heavyweights or super heavies, super heavies, and then John Del Rosa won the heavyweights. Who you beat for the overall. It was
that was
a
the
cool
class
thing.
Of 2011.
And
it's cool to see those guys still competing today. And we have actually really close friendship. I think Juan's one of the guys I'm closest to in the industry, just because of the person he is, the family man he is, and his work ethic is second to none. And I think, we look back at it, and I remember that show, and I was like, man, people are talking about Juan, and I'm seeing the videos, and I'm like, man, this guy comes in crazy condition. He's round as shit. And I'm like, man, this is going to be interesting to see what the show entails. I'm gonna have to bring it. And then we were backstage getting ready to go out. I think it was for prejudging or finals, or right after prejudging, and Juan came up to me and he goes, congratulations. And I said, for what? And he goes, you won the show. And I'm like, the show ain't over yet, bro. I don't take congratulations till I got a trophy in my hand. But just the respectable competitor that he is, and the honorable guy. I mean, he's such a, not only is he huge, but he's a huge heart. And when he came up to me and told me that, I was like, man, that's pretty awesome. I mean, we're competing to try to accelerate our careers, go to the next level with things. And he told me that, and ever since then, man, we've always been close, encouraged each other, even when we're at shows competing with each other. It's we're always kind of by each other talking, and it's like that's the other side of that people don't really see a lot. They think there's always this bad blood, or there's got to be some kind of I mean, obviously we do train to win, and that's our goal, but I think there is a brotherhood that's kind of part of bodybuilding too that people don't see a lot of.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true. And Juan is a great guy, and like you said, his great work ethic. Works like a machine in the gym, and just works really hard, along with his wife Karen. Making my cookie dealer take off is huge success that it has become. But yeah, it was exciting. My first pro show ever that I ever went to see was actually your pro debut and Juan's pro debut and John's pro debut, the 2012 New York Pro, and that was an amazing show.
That's true. That's true,
man. That was it was cool to see you guys. It was like watching the future, you know.
Yeah, and I remember that show because that was, you know, we were all competing. It was like, hey, we're going to next year. We're all going to do it together. Juan turned pro at the North American, so it was like, all right, 2012 is going to be a big year. Cedric shows up, one of the best Cedrics ever to see the stage.
Probably the best.
I know. And of course, it's the show that we want to do. You know, one of us are bound to win for our pro debut. And here comes Cedric to pop our bubble. And
ruined it.
The best Cedric that, you know, probably would have won Mr. Olympia if he showed up like that year. So yeah, there's.
Yeah. When I saw that, when, you know, I thought to myself, that's a future Mr. Olympia and Cedric, but that just hasn't panned out yet. Who knows?
Right.
But yeah, it was cool to see you guys starting off at the same time, and it was clear that like bodybuilding was in good hands with you guys.
I think it has. I think, like you said, it's. I see that well, like you said, in 2011, 2012, 13, it kind of was like that's the future of the sport, and I think we're there now. I think the old guard is kind of at the end of their reign. The Phil Heath, the Dexter Jackson, the Victor Martinez crew that's been around for a while. I think, you know, they're obviously probably majority of them won't be competing anymore. So now it's time for us. It's not like we're the old guard, but we're like that middle. We're not the new guys, the old guys. We're like, all right, here comes the middle guys to start taking that veteran seat, and it's exciting to be a part of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, during your Olympia debut was 2014, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a show. That was the names on that competitor list. It was like that was a golden era of one of the golden eras of bodybuilding.
That probably was the best. I remember competing at that, and I was competing almost as a fan because I'm like, man, there's like all these guys I looked up to growing up and early on in the sport, and there was 3 Mr. Olympias doing that show. It was Dexter, Jay, and Phil all doing that show, and I'm like, this is. You know, and arguably Victor Martinez should have been a Mr. Olympia too. And we were all on the stage together, and it was a really kind of a really iconic moment in my career to be a part of that.
Yeah, and the following year you made your top 10 debut at number 9, I think. You were 9th. Yeah. That was a great show too, 2015.
Yeah.
You and Juan, I think, were both in the top 10. You guys have been like there like that for a long time. Was there a show that you can think of that was for you your greatest moment on stage, whether it was a victory or otherwise?
I think there's definitely a few I could add onto my favorites or highlights. I think the turning pro, you only turn pro once, and I think that's a huge moment in anybody's career. Winning the USA's in 2011 was one of those moments where, you know, I put it all on the table. I went all in on it, and it worked out for me. So when you do that and you get rewarded, I mean, there's that feeling of like accomplishment that's hard. There's no drug that match it. You know, it's like, man, this is amazing. So that was one of my pinnacles. The first pro win, you know, I won the Europa in Dallas, like I said, and my whole family was here, my crew, and it was like that was kind of a special moment too for me. Winning the Arnold Brazil was a really big, because I wanted to win an Arnold title, but you know, the one title that I'm really gunning for is the Arnold Ohio title. I think that's one that I want to put on my shelf and be like, man, I could, if I retire at any time, that's the one title that I want to say, man, I got that title. Right. Obviously, Mr. Olympia is one we all vouch for and we all are fighting for, but I think you know, if that didn't happen, I want to have that Arnold title. But I mean, I've had a lot of really. Like, I think any win is really special. You know, I winning does not get old. I think, you know, each one has their special, you know, meanings and the trials and things you had to go through to get to that. We've all, you know, all have an uphill battle to get there, and we have resistance along the way. And like my pastor said yesterday, we was talking about resistance. It's like, man, when we all are kind of against resistance, but as bodybuilders, we live on resistance. Resistance makes us stronger, bigger,
Right.
and better. So, as the things that come against you along the way, the losses, the little things that hurt, little injuries or life situations, that's all things that help make us stronger. And if you're mentally strong, like I said, I think that's what makes a true champion.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. That's great. And I think that you're, definitely one of the great representatives of the sport, great champions that we have. I remember, oh man, it must have been 2015 or 14. You were appearing somewhere in New York City or around New York at a supplement store. And I
Yeah.
came with a good friend of mine and his daughter. She knew nothing about bodybuilding. And you were so nice. She she still knows who you are to
No,
this day.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
you're a great
Yeah,
representative.
my kind of thing is, I treat people the way I want to be treated. And I think if you go through life and do that, of course you'll have a bad apple in every bunch, but you can't, say that everybody's like that. But the way I want, by me being on a winning a show or on a cover of a magazine, it doesn't change who I am. I think a lot of people think like, oh, you're famous or you have a blue check mark on Instagram or you're a pro of this or, you've been on TV or whatever. It doesn't make it right to be an asshole to people.
You're
So,
right.
I mean, again, that goes regardless of where you come from or who you are, whether you're the janitor somewhere or whether you're the CEO of a company. I'm going to treat you equally, and I get that reciprocated, and that's to me what makes a good person a good person.
Yeah, I agree with you. You don't not do well, I think, by not being a good person. Being
Right,
a good person isn't ever going to hurt you.
right,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. So do you have I know you have other things that you do outside of bodybuilding, correct? You have
Yeah.
other interests. What are some
Mhm.
things that you might be working on right now?
Well, we have being a promoter of shows is one major thing we do. We started with one Kuclo Classic, and now we have three. We got one in Michigan and then one in Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming. So that's kind of a cool little branch off of the bodybuilding stuff. Obviously, we work as athletes. We've been with Allmax for many years. We normally make a lot of appearances through the year. That's been cut short or reduced quite a bit through COVID stuff. Hopefully start picking up. I see some expos and different things start happening again. So kind of excited to get out and see the fans and interact with people again. My wife and I, we've run Booty Queen Apparel, which is the women's fitness apparel line. We started off of her likeness that we ended up on Shark Tank with and became kind of that fit couple that ended up on Shark Tank and got to be a little bit more recognized on a national slash kind of mainstream level versus just the fitness world. So that was cool. And then we're just, I work with a lot of business entrepreneurs and groups that, like my friend Ryan Stewman, who has Apex, that group that I work with, starting to get involved in more speaking stuff via events and masterminds and kind of going that route a little bit, along with, kind of getting my hands into some other businesses that hopefully if they do pan out, it's going to be exciting to be a part of. So a lot of good things. I think a lot of outside just competing as a bodybuilder now. Obviously, there's only a certain amount of time you can be a bodybuilder, and you have to think outside the career. I think, looking at guys like Jay Cutler, the way he did things, I was always a fan of him as the businessman too, and the competitor. And then you look at guys, some of the other guys that kind of all they did was compete, and after they start scrambling, like, oh man, I got to do something. I got to create a revenue because I'm not competing. I'm not making any more money. So I want to do things smart and make sure that I still maintain a good lifestyle that I enjoy and make sure I take care of my wife and family. That's always been my number one priority.
I know you're pretty civic minded. Do you have any aspirations in terms of politics going in the future?
It's been on my heart and mind a little bit more and more with the, I'd say in the last 4 to 5 years, the way, you see things changing and the way things are going. And you're like, man, how do I create change going in the right direction? And a friend of mine, and I saw him make a post in about 2 years ago, really resonated with me. And it was talking about, if you really want to make a change, then put your name on a ballot, he said. And I'm like, man, that's so true. He didn't tell me that. He made a post about it.
Yes, right.
And and when I read that, I'm like, that's really true. And I think a lot of us get so caught up in what the news says and that high federal level and what's going around the world, you know, and you think like, man, I really don't think there's a lot you can do at that scale. I mean, as much as you want to post and bitch about it on Facebook and be like, you know, we need to stop this. Well, is you posting that going to do anything? No, it's really not. But I think where you can really make an impact in your community and local level is getting involved in the local level, whether it's, you know, city council, the school boards, the, you know, mayor level, that kind of stuff. That's what I've been, you know, kind of pondering about, thinking about doing it after bodybuilding. That could be you know, I do enjoy that. I enjoy, you know, developing relationships, and I do have a passion for the city I live in, especially, you know, spending 10 years as a firefighter medic in Dallas. It's been something that I said, you know, if I wanted to, I love this city and I want to make sure it's in the right hands, and that the people that are the backbone of the city, like the police, the fire, all those people, the city workers, that they're taken care of. I think they've been really a lot of times overlooked, and I think they, as a first responder, that would be like what I would campaign on, is be supporting, you know, your first responders and back in the blue. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, there's so much that you can, when you say put your name on a ballot, there's only so much a person can do. And how many, there's so many celebrities that speak out politically.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, maybe in the wrong direction sometimes, and it might influence certain people. But you don't have too much power to change the world or change our world, the city, state, whatever,
right,
until you are putting your name on the ballot, like Schwarzenegger did, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you went from being a bodybuilder, movie star, to actually doing the job of being a politician. So
yeah, so it's something I'm not ruling out. I would have to do some serious talking to my wife. You know, she has concerns about what going that route entails. Obviously, putting the spotlight, and people want to, you know, try to dig up dirt or create rumors and it's a shame how much like just negativity comes with somebody trying to do good for, you know, the community or that they're in, or the city, or the, you know, even just the bigger picture. I've had some friends recently run for Congress and different things like that, and they've come really close to winning, but the negativity and that public, you know, bashing that they got for certain things were like, man, like people really turn a mountain out of a molehill when there's really nothing to run with, but they make it sound like it's so bad, you know.
Right.
That's the only downside to politics, I think, that's negative. You know, they try to destroy people. But I think if you have a strong foundation, you're strong mentally, you know, words don't really affect you, I think you can do well. And I think I'm one of those people that really don't get affected by what other people say.
You're geared for it. So
yeah,
I think it would be, I would be excited for it, but anyway.
Yeah.
So the first show that you have planned for this year is the Texas show.
Yes, sir.
And do you have anything planned afterwards, or is it going to be one and done, you think? Hopefully that's the plan.
The goal is one and done.
Yeah.
One have about 5-6 weeks until Olympia, and then just dial it into there. So that would be the two shows kind of at, you know, and if the Arnold happens, I would do that. Even if it's not a qualifier, I think the Arnold like is a show, like I said, that I really want to hang on my shelf to say I've won the Arnold, Ohio show. So I think those are the three that I would be really focused on doing this year. If I needed to do another one, I think I'll, you know, kind of pivot and make sure I'd get one done to be able to qualify for the O in time.
And going back, also just speaking about politics slightly a little bit more. I know that sometimes you talk about political things online on
Sure.
Instagram. Do you find yourself being shadow banned, or
It really, I noticed it really with my wife, and she was like the first that I start seeing it. Like when she would talk, it'd be not even so much about politics, but faith. You know, she'd be very boisterous about God and what she believed in. And it was coming from a very loving and helping place. And it helped so many people. She gets so many messages. And then she just starts seeing her engagement fall lower, lower, lower. And then followers were just dropping off. And there wasn't like she was trying to alienate anybody or try to, you know, create this, you know, put out a bad message. Everything was very positive and loving. And she's like, why is my engagement or following going down? You know, and obviously it's some kind of algorithm that they have, that they drop followers off, or if somebody's not engaging, or it's very much controlled. They got a throttle. They do something that is not so kosher when it comes to, hey, I want to build something and put out a good message. It's very controlled. And that's where like that freedom of speech gets really influenced, that they have the influence on it, which I don't believe that's a good thing at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I have noticed, you know, when there's things, I mean, I got as much as canceled too. I got Facebook, my personal Facebook, right before, it was actually in September of last year. It just, all of a sudden people start messaging me like, hey, did you get off Facebook? I can't tag you, whatever. And it was more my personal, that I would talk about topics, or, you know, I'd like to have it. I enjoy humor. So I would have something, I'd post something that would kind of make you laugh but it's a really relevant topic about something going on. But that really, so I got canceled on Facebook. Twitter actually put me on their ban list too, because for some reason that must have been just people I followed or liked things, but
it's still crazy. And it really does. And I've said this before, it's not just, I felt things happen to my page where it wasn't even what I'm posting, but what I'm liking, who I'm following, whose pages I comment on. Yeah, I really felt that it affected me.
No, it has, because I remember, you know, you'd get 10, 20,000 likes on stuff, and now you fight to get 1,000 to 2,000 likes. And I think the same thing has happened to me, happened to Amanda, happened to a lot of other friends of mine. I have friends with accounts that have 1 million plus, and they got shadow banned, and they went from getting, you know, 100,000 likes per post to like 2. And if you don't think that's a problem, I mean, I went to when I went to the White House back in 2019, I went there, and it talked, the main thing was about, you know, social media summit. There was 150 people, some of the highest influencers in the world, from all sides, and kind of discussed of what's going on in the attack on freedom of speech, and the way big tech is influencing that on a really a not so good level.
Yeah.
So I know that they were trying to create some measures to be able to put some handcuffs on them, to say, hey, you can't be doing this kind of stuff if you're going to be a public platform. That, you know, I think that's one thing that really has to be addressed in our country, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. When I was, when I noticed it happening to me, I started a page that was just a personal page. Like, sort of unfollowed all of the political pages I was following, any gun pages or anything like that I was following on this bodybuilding, followed them on my personal page. And I noticed things got back to normal for me on This Is Bodybuilding. I started getting more followers again, because I had been losing followers. Suddenly it was going back up. The reach, my reach on everything was great again. Wow. And now that I started to mention things like YouTube, Patreon, that I'm doing a podcast, every time I do mention anything like that, the reach just drops like crazy.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
I did a post about this, that I was going to be doing this last night, put a great picture up of you getting the most muscular that Jason Breeze shot. Was an awesome photo. There's no reason that picture shouldn't have gotten a ton of likes. And I realized it was hard to get any likes, and I checked the reach. I think that even today, like just an hour or so ago, it had reached 30,000 people. And I have 495, almost 496,000 followers. So why is this?
Yeah, you know? That's crazy.
And if they're all bodybuilding fans, they would have liked that picture had they seen it.
Yeah, it was a gnarly picture. I saw that, and I appreciate you putting that up. But I think it is, it sucks for guys like you and myself that, you know, social media is an outlet for us, that we, it's part of like what we do in our job in an essence. You know, it does create an income because the things we promote and talk about. And obviously they want kind of a pay to play scenario too, I think, a lot. And anytime, like, you know, if I'm talking about a protein powder that like I'm using Omax Isoflex, and I'm saying, hey, and here's my code, you know, if you want to go buy it, because people will ask, where do I get it? And so
Yeah.
I put that in a comment, dude. And like you said, as soon as you do that, I mean, things just get buried. Like
no, you're not allowed to do anything anywhere else or make money anyway, other than without. Yeah. And I've done stuff like I promote posts. I promoted that post, you know, I don't spend a whole lot of money on any of them, but if I add up the money I spent per month on things to promote, it's sizable, you know, I think enough that I should be allowed to reach my audience. It's just, it's crazy.
Right.
Crazy. But I didn't mean for this to turn into that anyway.
No, that's true though. I think that's a big thing. People often, you know, they don't think it exists, or they don't see it themselves, or it's not happening to them. So they're like, that's not going on. I had several friends, some very close friends of mine that were kind of like very neutral with things, didn't believe like that a lot of that existed. And then when I got canceled from Facebook and Twitter, and they're like, oh, that really does happen. Like that is going on.
Well, our friend Al Lewis got canceled from
Twitter. Instagram and Twitter.
It was crazy. Like he wasn't promoting, you know, anything violent, any hate speech, nothing. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and there, you know, it's exciting. There is some new platforms in the works. I've actually been approached and talking about, you know, the starting phase of it, and that's what I know. Like they're talking about that Trump is looking at getting on a few of these platforms, and he's, you know, they're all vouching for his, you know, kind of sign on for him to say, I'm going to use this platform. One of them is actually a company based in Texas called Sky Labs, and they created Free Space, which is something that's coming up, and the outline of the platform is amazing. It's about, obviously they're not censoring freedom of speech. They want you to talk about, you know, whatever topics you want to talk about, but they're not going to allow hate speech, you know, but they'll allow what is hated for speech. You know, if you don't agree with something and you say, I think, you know, vaccines are bad, or I think I don't believe in masks, where that would get, you know, banned or censored on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah.
They're going to allow that because that is a personal opinion and a voice. It's freedom of speech. You know, you're not saying I want to go and do something harmful to somebody. You're just saying, I don't think they're good.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. I really do hope that there's going to be platforms like that arising. So.
Yeah, there is. And that's exciting to see. I think, you know, when a company like Facebook or Instagram does that, they alienate at least half of their audience, if not more.
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, that creates an opportunity for somebody like Free Space to come out and say, hey, we have a platform to use. It's going to be a very similar, fun, easy to use platform that you can do all these things. And I think they're doing a really good job at that. So that's one to watch out for sure.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Well, Steve, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. It's fun.
Hope to see you on Saturday for the Kuclo Classic. Yeah, I think I'm going to call out of work for that one. So
at least for a few hours, at least come out.
Yes.
Even if it's in the morning for a little bit. Like I said, we start the men from 9 till about 1 or 2, and then women from 3 to whenever they're done. And it's a great. I think if anybody out there has never been to a bodybuilding show, I encourage you to go support your local shows. It gets, I mean, even at a local level, myself at the level I'm at, I get motivated going to these shows. I see the competitors and the work, and even where I started, and it's inspiring. If you kind of need some motivation, like, man, I need to get my ass back in the gym or start training again. You go to these shows, and I mean, that same day, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go train. I need to go get my butt in shape. And my hat's off to every one of the competitors that do get on stage, and I know the work and effort that goes into it, and including the family members that have to sacrifice and put up with these competitors. They're all they all get applauded as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. And best of luck with not just the Kuclo Classic, but the Texas Pro Show.
Thank you.
I think you're going to kill it. I'll definitely be at that. Looking forward to it.
No, I appreciate you, Michael. You do a great job promoting the sport, talking a lot about the history. And I think that's a lot of things that people tend to forget. They just think of what's right then and now, and what's, you know, like people have short memories when it comes to things. And I think they don't even know who happened to win Olympia, 5 years ago. They're just,
it's crazy.
Who won Olympia last year? I mean, some people are like, I got to think about it. Like, come on, like we need the history stuff. And I think you do a great job putting out a lot of factual stuff and quality content that, as a bodybuilder myself and a fan of the sport, really enjoy. So I applaud you for doing that, and keep it going.
Thanks. I appreciate that, brother. Really do.
Thank you.
All right, guys, sign off right now. This is Michael Bryson with Steve Kuclo, and this is Bodybuilding. See you next time.